She shifted her focus away from him, too subtly and stealthily for it to have been anything even remotely resembling movement. It was more like a shift in the light fall on her face that told him she was about to walk away. And he immediately reacted, engaging her again. "Have you noticed, Lydia, how the ship is filled to absolute capacity with passengers?" "I suppose," she answered him, somewhat irritated. Her annoyance still only a light surge of static across her skin, though. "Well, given that we have now left the last Italian port, doesn't it strike you as odd that the only other persons you and I are sharing a cabin with are the two young ladies I left behind to finish off a bottle for me?" "I don't see what it is you're driving at, Signora." "Well, there are still 2 empty bunks in our cabin, and considering the ship is probably filled to capacity, like I said, it makes sense that we would be sharing our cabin with at least 2 other passengers. Haven't you wondered how that could be?" "Now that you mention it, I suppose it is rather odd. How do you know 2 more people have not joined our 2 drunken cabin mates since we've been out here?" "Over the years, Lydia, I learned a thing or 2 about how to make the whole travel experience less taxing for myself. And that the most important thing is to inspire officials at the shipping company to think of creative ways to accommodate me. That for the right amount of money, just about anything can be arranged in order to provide me with all the comforts I need. In the end, it should only be a matter of, well, price, of course. And the trading spirit of our countrymen has yet to fail me in this regard, I must say." He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, as if he were looking for the right balance that would allow him to continue talking. But he timed the intervals of his words perfectly nevertheless, and beat her each time she thought she might at last be able to get away. "And this, my dear, is how I get to share a cabin, which normally should accommodate 6 passengers, with only 3 ladies, and 2 of whom, I might add, will be traveling only a small portion of the way." "You're very crafty, Signora Toffolo, so why suggest that more people might be joining us when we were in the cabin earlier?" "Oh, I don't think it would have helped our cabin mates to warm up to me had I admitted paying a small fortune to travel only with the 3 of you. And no, I'm not crafty at all. I just happen to be very rich, that's all. Which isn't really very fair to those who truly are crafty but still get to travel in the lowest pits of these ships. And what makes you think that the Scazzo sisters will warm up to you now after I tell them about all this?" "Oh dear, my feeling is that the Scazzo sisters, even if they do find a way to crawl out of the bottle of anisette I brought for them, won't hear one word of this. Besides, why would they? If anything, they're benefiting from it." "Is that how you figure the situation?" He rubbed his hands like a mouse that's accidentally found itself trapped inside a bread basket. "My guess is that you're a practical young woman, and that you really ought to be thanking me for the opportunity to share your cabin with only me. After we set sail of, what is it, Madeira?" She took a small step toward him, much in the way a man might do only seconds before he lands his fist in the smaller man's teeth. But her eyes sparkled with amusement, and with a tinge of pity perhaps as well, though imposing all the same. "I don't know what you take me for, Signora," she hissed in a dozed tone. "But you must know that traveling 3rd or even 4th would not mean a thing to me, so," limiting her words to him alone, even though there was no one else even remotely near, "please don't think for a minute that you've obliged me in any way." He leaned back, but without actually taking a step away from her. "Sooner or later, you would have noticed the conditions in which our fellow passengers are traveling," he said. "And you would surely have brought it up yourself, I wager. I thought it was best if you knew it right from the beginning, from me. If you're so rich, Signora Toffolo, why even go through all the trouble? Why even bother? Lydia, there are forces not even my money can deter, and something tells me that is exactly why our cabin mates aren't traveling on first, because there are things not even their money can buy either. Would you like me to show you the lowest decks of the ship? Are you even aware of the fact that there's actually such a thing as a 3rd or even 4th class on this marvel of technical ingenuity?" He extended his arm in the direction of the stairwell and added, "Please join me in a walk. I think it will enlighten you as to what crossing the Atlantic can look like." Her brow hardened as she held him with that granite glower that had always made her seem older than she really was. She looked to be in deep thought, moved her hand across her face, taming real strands of hair this time, and rested her gaze on the coastline, moving slowly behind the fog. Lydia was an objective soul. At 23, she knew this much. And this is how she foresaw that she would always be a foreigner, no matter where she went. She knew she would always embrace whatever crossed her path as eagerly as she would be able to discard all of it on a whim. But still, during those 8 days she had wandered through the city waiting to embark, her grip never loosened on the bundle in her hand, her documents, her identity, the last thing that connected her to the mountains now fading in the distance.